thanks Ham Live for that gift. Appreciate it. And yeah, congrats on the new rig. Well, I have to say, guys that don't know this, N4HNH, Andrew, gifted this radio to me because if you know anything about my channel, I don't do any alignment with a manufacturer or reseller. So I don't, because I don't want to be biased. I want to be unbiased, and I don't want to be told what I can or can't say about a rig. And you know, most of my evaluations of a rig, they're done on air. And in fact, people who don't watch my entire video, they just go by what I had somebody yesterday tell me they just look in my video list. There's 102 for the FTX-10. And people would just go in there and only look at the video that applies, where the title applies to what they're interested in. But I film those in order of complexity usually, but whatever happens on air while I'm doing the video, I'll turn on this other camera for you. Whatever happens on the air while I'm doing this other video is there. I just address it. So sometimes the title of the video is not everything that's in it. In fact, it might be just one aspect of what's in it. So Andrew wanted me to be able to give you guys, and so far every radio I've done, I've been able to do an unbiased review and unbiased tutorials. Those of you who are S9 VIP Patreon members, coming out of the gate Saturday night, right after I opened the radio, spent about 6 hours with it. And I've been writing and adding to a post on there, giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly about the radio. And I'm able to do that because Andrew sent the radio so that I could just completely be honest with you. I'm not rich. I can't go out and buy every radio that comes out. And so, you know, my friend Joel, he's made it possible for me to do the FTX-10 series, the FTX-101, the 991, the 7300. And then friend Wendell got me the FTM-400. And then Jonathan, also one of the Patreon's members here, sent me the FTM-500. So now the Kenwood TS-890S, I had to charge that on a card, and I've been doing a series on that one. And I don't know what I'll do with that rig after I'm done, because I've always wanted to have a Kenwood. All my Elmers were Kenwood guys, and it's got a lot of wonderful things about it, but you know, like every rig, it's not perfect. Let's see. Try going on 40 meters, see if it works for you. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I did. I just got on, I was on 7236. Yeah, the audio's low because the mic was way up high and I was down there at the radio, Paulo. Oh, no, it was Plasma that said that. And question, is it bigger and heavier than the FT710 I use for portable? Yeah, Andy, it's pretty heavy. I was shocked when I lifted the box off the front porch. You know, I mean, yeah, it's heavy. I don't know why. I guess I haven't looked in the specs to see officially what the weight is and compare that to the 710. I wouldn't backpack with it. I'll put it that way. Now, the cool thing is you can take the front off and just use it with a battery, either a Bio-NO, which would give you 10 watts output, like I say, a Bio-NO 12 volts, or you can use the little snap-on battery that comes with it, and you get 6 watts. So, yeah, I mean, it is kind of heavy, though. And I noted that in my unboxing footage, but I haven't had a moment to sit down and even begin to edit that footage. I went straight to the Patreon team and wrote a lot of my initial findings for them. You know, I owe it to these guys because, well, quite frankly, I just did the math the other day. 98% of the funding to help with the expenses of doing this comes from the Patreon members. So I try to get everything out to them soon. Let's see. You want one there, Craven? Yeah. Curious to hear what folks think of it. Well, it's going to be, yeah, you're right. DX10, 710. HFY is very much like a 710, but better DNR. This DNR, I told the Patreon team, it's a scale of 1 to 10, or 0 if you want to consider that off. digital noise reduction, that is, where on the 710 and the FTDX10, FTDX-101, FTDX-5000, they go to 15. But this one is different. I haven't been able to find anything. Now, eventually a schematic will be released and I'll be able to find out, but I don't know what chip they're using. You know, Yaesu, typically we're using the Texas Instruments chips, and then on the FT710, they went with NXP semiconductors, and that one's DNR did not perform as well as the DX10 or the 101. So, you know, good DNR, yeah, good, just not in comparison to its big brothers. This one falls somewhere in between. You got a scale of 0 off, then up to 10. I'm finding that 6 or 7 is a sweet spot. And, you know, if you know me, if you've been around the channel much, you know that I use DNR on also with CW. It helps tamp down some of that ringing that you get from tight filters. So, but I found 6 or 7 to be a nice, happy medium. 7 if you really, really want to squash some noise without getting it. If you go above 7, it's going to start getting some noticeable digital artifacts. That's one of the things that I noticed the DX10, and for that matter, the 5000 and the 101 with its latest firmware will not give you that watery effect. Now, I say that, let me qualify that. You guys who've watched my channel enough know that one of the things I do to help the DSP do a better job is I get rid of the noise in the front end. So you heard me talking to those guys that had IPO on, attenuation. You can roll the RF gain back, but I'm going to try to deliver as little noise as I can before the signal goes digital, and that will help especially the DNR do a better job. Let's see. Need more YouTube volume? Yeah, well, okay. That was early in the video. Yeah, well, FTDX 10 or 710 will be better unless you have the optimal 100 watts. Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from with that N3WER. That looks pretty cool, newer. This is the radio for the person that says, look, I can only have one radio, and it's got to do it all for me. Well, you've got 2 meters, 70 centimeters in half of it, and then you got HF on the other half. And you can actually use both halves as VHF, UHF, VHF, UHF, vice versa. The only thing you can't do is HF. You can only receive one HF frequency at a time. So in that respect, it truly is like a 710. And I say more 710 than DX10, and the reason I say that is because the 710 is a pure SDR, and this rig is pure SDR. There is no super heterodyne hybrid front end. You don't have roofing filters like you do on the FTDX10. Now, I prefer roofing filters, but this thing is not bad. It's going to be interesting to see what Sherwood's test lab comes back. I wonder if it'll become the 4th radio in the list. Right now, Yaesu owns the top 3 slots. And the 4th radio right now is a ICOM shortwave listening receiver. I think the 8600. So the FT710 is right now the greatest pure SDR out there as far as, you know, the receiver's dynamic range. So it'll be interesting to see where this one falls. It should be neck to neck with the 710. We'll see. Let's see, bean counter. Oh, he didn't like the 710. He's going to dislike this one. Other channels showing firmware issues that need updating. Well, yeah, I've already run into some bugs. I reported it to the Patreon team. I'll give you a couple. The comp meter, just like in the 710, doesn't really work. The compression meter. So just forget that. Those of you who are Patreon team members who subscribe annually have access to my menu optimizations guides. Follow that. Follow the one for the 710, and that's all I did with this one, and you'll be able to nail the transmit audio and just forget the compression meter. This one does have the peak reading option for the power output meter like the FT710 has, but regrettably, it doesn't work. In fact, it makes a popping noise when you transmit, and when you key the mic and let go of the mic, there's a popping noise in the speaker. I should demonstrate that for you, but it's annoying. But also, too, it doesn't actually read peaks. When I was talking a while ago, I was seeing about 30 watts on the power output meter. Yeah, 30. If I'd have whistled, I'd have got about 50. But I guarantee you, I was closer to 95, probably 98 watts on peaks. I didn't look at my watt meter, but I guarantee you that's where it was. My real watt meter now, not one built in the radio. But yeah, regrettably, the power output meter is only working on averaging, and it doesn't make the popping sound if you leave it on the default of average. And but it's not reading accurately. Let me take that back. If you're concerned you're not getting 100 watts, go to FM mode, transmit. If you see 100, you got 100 out of your radio. It's just the meter you can rely on is the ALC. So you set it up with the ALC, follow my guide for the setting of the processor, and I always run the processor. Don't tell anybody because some of my friends don't like processors, but I always run the processor, but not enough that you can tell. And then, adjust your mic gain, finger 3 widths from the mic, like this. And like I'm doing this PR40 now. And then, adjust your mic gain to where your ALC meter deflects up there to the line, or close to the line, and you'll be fine. But so regrettably, that's a bug in there. And then I found a weird bug a while ago, about 2 hours ago. So you can let me do something. I'm going to go over to the screen a minute, and I know you won't be able to hear me as well. If you want to turn your volume up, do that, and then I'll warn you before I come back. Okay, I want to show you a weird bug. I hope this camera can focus. Okay, so you see how I've got it right now? There's a display button right here, DISP, that toggles the various modes. See, there I'm just looking at HF. There I'm looking at VHF over here, HF over here. That's how it comes out of the box. And here I've got them stacked, makes the numbers bigger. And you get now, just like on an FT710, there's attenuation, IPO, DNF, and AGC. Now on the bottom, since this is VHF down here right now, it's a little bit different. But you got amp on or off and AGC auto. So right now I've got the meter here in the top left set for SWR. So if I wanted to change that to power output, it didn't change. But it did on the bottom meter. Okay, so I tap here and I change it back to SWR, and I change the bottom meter back to SWR. It's not affecting the top meter. But here's my theory on that. I'm going to press the display button. There we go, twice, and get back to this. See, normally on the left is the meter for the sub, and when you go to this mode, the sub is in the bottom, and then on the top left is the main. So it's like somewhere in the code they forgot to tie that together to say, okay, wait a minute, in this particular display mode, top left is the main, not the sub. So, but I like this look, and I like that I've got the availability without having to long press the function. Let me show you what I mean. In this mode here, you don't see attenuation, IPO, and all of that. You have to long press function and go into the menu to do it. And see, here they are. There's attenuation, IPO, DNF, AGC right there. But those four can be available to you on screen. I mean, long press function to get out of here. There's 3 pages on that menu, by the way. I'll have a lot of writing to do when I put out a menu optimizations guide for this radio. But the you see here you have the waterfall or 3DSS. There's waterfall, and I do have it set for scope averaging right now. Now I've got the level. Let me turn the level up. I keep the function knob set for D level. That's your scope, and but I don't like to see all that noise in there. But I wonder if you can see that it is averaging. Okay, so anyway, I just think 3DSS looks cool. There we go. So when you do this mode here where everything's bigger and you have the availability of those, the attenuation, IPO, DNF, and AGC, you lose your scope. So if you guys are scope watchers, it doesn't bother me, but for scope watchers, you won't like this. You'll probably want to do, well, now here's HF only. you'll probably want to do that one. And by the way, this could be VHF or this could be VHF or UHF only. It's just a matter of holding down the band button and deciding what you want. But there's your normal out of the box setting, and right now the scope is looking at the HF side. It can look at the VHF side as well. But I just wanted you to see that other bug that I ran across. And I'll let you look at the radio while I come back. There we go. All right, so yeah, no perfect radio out of the gate, right? Yes, we'll have to depend on a firmware update. Now, those are not things that would prevent me from having fun with the radio. And it's like, some radios are easier to operate, where some perform better. So sometimes you make a compromise, because nobody makes a perfect radio. Anybody who's been following my channel for a while knows I say that a lot, because it's true. Nobody makes a perfect radio. So you kind of have to gauge what's important to you. For me, I will sacrifice ergonomics, and you certainly do sacrifice ergonomics with an FTDX10, a 710, and this one, especially this one, because you got a lot packed in that little bitty box. I will sacrifice ergonomics for performance, because ultimately this is radio, not television. That screen, okay, that's cute, but that's not, this is radio. I got to be able to pull out the weak stations. I like to chase QRP stations. That last guy that contacted me was QRP, by the way. He was on a IC705. Okay, let's see. Yeah, the cool thing about the Optima, let me just make sure you understand, you're getting an remember they first put out, said it was going to be an FTX-1 F. F was for field. They kind of snookered us when they came out with the Optima first, and a few hours later the field. But all the field is an Optima without the amplifier. So, and put it the other way, the Optima is the amplifier, the SPA-1, added to a field radio. So when you pop that radio there off, you can just unsnap it and undo 5 cables. You've got an FTX-1 F. The interesting thing is you only save $400 to get the F model, and then later if you say, hey, I want to go ahead and get the amp, you can, but I think from what I have seen, you wind up paying more. So if you really think you're ever going to want the 100-watt amp, it's better to order the Optima. Yeah, I know, it's another $400, but it's either you can spend $400 now and save, or if it's more convenient, add the amp later. Yeah, it would be great if, yeah, Andy's saying if it was the field version was 40 watts, boy, that would be really, that 40 watts is a good place to land. It really is. I missed one up there. The HNH even know how to be better than 2.7K. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that one. Let's see. Somebody agreed with Andy there. Yeah, Craven, let's see. Sometimes it doesn't always pay to have the rig early. Let them work the bugs out. I know, I agree. This one was gifted to me, and I do much appreciate it. I have to say, by the way, though, the FTDX10 was also gifted to me. At first, my friend Joel dropped it off and said, hey, set this up for me. I'm going to take it to my cabin. And then the next thing you know, I said, well, hey, look, I've shot, I think 13 videos at that point. And he goes, I said, you ready to come pick it up? No, just keep it a little longer. And I kept shooting videos. And then he calls and says, look, I just want you to have it. He even brought me the external speaker. That's the reason there's an FTDX10 series, guys, because I raised 4 kids and I've got a wife. I can't go out and buy every radio that comes out. So the pickle there is, well, I could make a deal with the manufacturers, but then I've got to only show the good stuff. So literally, you guys, the Patreon team members who support my work here, literally, it would shut down without you. So, but I was going to say about the FTDX10. So I have an earlier version. It's running firmware, still running the original firmware, V0104. The FTDX10 is up to V01-15. Now, let me qualify that a little bit for you. My radio has been flawless, except those of you on Patreon. On my Patreon, you may have read the article I released a few months ago about how I thought I blew the finals. But it turned out that they weren't blown. That was something that was cured with not even cured with a reset. It was cured with a reset and a reload from my RT Systems backup. Kind of a head scratcher there, because I also had a backup on the SD card and that didn't work. But that's the hiccup I've had with the FTDX10. So I've left well enough alone. The other thing is, after version 01-04, you guys can no longer double tap the band button on your FTDX10 to cycle through the band stack registers. I can. And that really annoyed me that they took that feature away for no good reason. I've never heard a good reason why they changed that. Now, of course, what you do is you tap band function to go through to cycle through the 3 band stack registers, which if you're not using band stack registers, I mean, that's a great way to operate. You can set up 3, one for CW, one for sideband, one for FT8, things like that. But anyway, the good news about having the earlier release is the firmware updates in the future will have to backdate. They'll have to be able to accommodate the earlier hardware. So there's been a couple of releases along the way for the FTDX10. 05 comes to mind, V0105, and then there was another one where that wasn't even available for download. And the reason was, I got this straight from Yaesu, they might have had to substitute a component, and when they did, that substitute component required them to make a slight programming change. And then when they came out with the next radio, they were able to spend a little time with the software. They probably wrote some code in there that would say, "Oh, I'm being installed on an older hardware," so that it could accommodate the older hardware. So, but the reason I bring this up is some people have said, "Oh man, I like that you can double tap band to go through the band stacks. Can I get V0104?" And I do have a copy of it, but if your radio came with V0109, V0110, you can't go backwards. Yaesu rep told me, do not install an older version of the firmware than what shipped in your radio. So, because of those slight little nuances that happen as they have to substitute hardware. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. So even like a G90... that ties back to an earlier comment. I like that antenna tuner on the G90. Yeah, I mean, when you're putting out 20 watts, the antenna tuner components don't have to be very big, so they can fit them. Like the T1 from Elecraft, that thing will tune a fence. It'll tune anything. Probably could, if you wet down a fence post, it probably could tune it, but it doesn't have to handle more than 20 watts. The problem with antenna tuners, you know me, I like to call them antenna matching units because they're not stretching your antenna wire or anything. They're just acting as a transformer. The thing about it is the more power you put through them, the bigger the capacitors and inductors have to be. So it's a bit of a compromise. So now they have an antenna tuner option available for this FTX-1, and it snaps on the back with the battery. So you can have an antenna tuner with the FTX-1. And of course, there's an antenna tuner built into the SPA-1, the Optima half of this unit I've got, which, by the way, it tuned my doublet for 20 meters earlier. When I got on 40 meters, I didn't need it. I'm using my ZS6BKW, which is already resonant there. Let's see. What else we got here? Working my way down. JP300 amp cheap, works great with $90 ATM. Yeah, but you're probably not lugging that amplifier in the field. Yeah. Yeah, so this is just you guys talking among yourselves. Amp is light, small, so easy. Yeah, like I said, somebody asked me about this thing. It is heavy. it is heavy. I definitely would not put this in a backpack. Now, POTA, sure, POTA would be fine. Where can I find it? Oh, he's probably talking about the amp. Let's see. Working my way down to stuff that applies to me. Thanks for the great work. FTX is working like a champ. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, oh, yeah, Jordan, yeah. Yeah, Jordan, appreciate you reaching out earlier. Yeah, I mean, every radio is going to have some initial bugs in it, and, they might even improve the DNR in this thing, but like I said, it's not bad. I would put it up against most competitors' DNR. I'll tell you this, those of you who are watching my FT, this is confusing. I have a Yaesu FT890. I have a Kenwood TS890S. Those of you who are watching the TS890S series, and I'm going to be showing more of this later, but it's available for S9 VIP members of the Patreon team. The DNR in this FTX-1 beats the noise reduction in the Kenwood. Sorry, it just does. Kenwood's got a lot of wonderful things, and I'm showing them in the series, but DNR is not one of them. It's tolerable, but that's about it. Let's see here. Screen averaging on the scope is nice. Yeah, that was something that, Yaesu kept having complaints about it, and about not having the averaging. And again, for people who watch a scope, they like that averaging. So you do have that ability now. There's 3 settings. Well, there's 4. Off. You can have it average 2 sweeps, 4 sweeps, or 8 sweeps. And I found that 8 is the best setting for me. If I'm going to do averaging, that looked the best. Let's see. Great setup. Great new rig. Thank you. Thank Andrew, N4HNH. Let's see. Been working remote. Lawrence has been working remote on his. Took it out and made a few contacts with his friend Philip. Used the FT710 values. Got great audio reports. Excellent, Lawrence. Let's see. What's the firmware screen look like? Base, main, face, SRD. I guess he's referring to this one. Well, that's going to be over there it's in the menu just like it is in the I'll jump on the radio. Just like it is in the FT710. Let me show you. Long pressing function, rotating function. It's got multiple pages, but it'll automatically change pages as you keep rotating. The second page is all about CW. The third page gets familiar at the bottom. If you look across the bottom, and that blue is kind of blurry for you guys, but that's radio setting, CW setting, operation setting, display setting, extension setting, and then a new one, APRS setting, because the rig, you can get an optional APRS module for it. Let's go into extension setting. Soft version, there it is. This one is version 01-00. So yeah, this is right out of the gate. Now the display is version 01-01. The DSP is 01-01. The SDR is 01-03. But yeah, so it's just like how you get there with the FT710. Now notice this, there's a back on the screen like we're all familiar with, but there's a back button. And I told some of the Patreon members, I wish they would have, I didn't mind tapping back on the screen. I wish they would have made this back button something that is user definable. For example, that would have been nice to be able to assign that to do something like a quick way, for example, to engage something like DNR or DNF or antenna tuner. Maybe set it for the tune option, not just on off, but the tune option. Although you could go through and do what I call train your tuner. If you do that, then you won't really need to do the tune up to let it find a match again. It stores that. So then, yeah, it'd just be a matter of, I switched antennas. This one needs the antenna tuner. Tap that button to turn the antenna tuner on. Otherwise, what you have to do is go into the function menu and put it on antenna tuner on or off. And you then when you long press to get out of the function menu, the top right, you know how it is on the DX10 and the 710, the last thing you did with the function knob is what it's now going to control. So that's what I've been doing. I had it set to be able to turn the antenna tuner on or off. But it would have been nice to let that back button be user defined and then we could just sort of like the CS button. You guys familiar with the CS button on the 5000 and the let's see, I think 5000, and you have similar buttons on the 101 and the 10. So that would have been nice, I think, to let that button, because it's just kind of redundant. You've got back on the screen and back over there as a button. All right, let's see. Great setup. All right, let's see. Yeah, remember, this is the original firmware. Yeah, I mean, it's just like the 710 that I had. It was fresh out of the gate, and I got in trouble because I'm not going to hide flaws, and I'm not hiding them on this thing. Anything I find, I've been reporting. In fact, what I did, the article I wrote up, I was up till 5 a.m. Saturday morning because I got the rig on Friday, writing. And I've been adding to it as I continue. I've added more this afternoon. That's why I've been telling the Patreon members, go back and check it every day or two. I've got a list of the good and the bad. Actually, I put the bad first. I explained to the Patreons because I'm an old radio technician, and I don't look for what's good. I look for what's broken. So my list of bad is first, and then I've got a list of the good things I've found so far called the good stuff. And fortunately, the good stuff is now a longer list than the bad. So, yeah, I mean, that 710 came out of the gate with some issues, and most of them were ironed out later with firmware updates. Not all of them, though. But, again, man, don't decide to buy a radio or not based on one or two things that irritate you. For example, noise blankers these days are not as good as they were in the old days, so I don't pick a radio because of the noise blanker being good or bad. There's just certain things you don't want to get hung up on. Ultimately, what you want to do is, how do I operate? And yeah, hey Doug Bowe, I see you down there. What do I do? What is going to mean more to me? That's what you want to focus on when you're buying a radio. I think I wrote an article about that over on Patreon as well. Yep. So let's see. Yaesu finally put a scope in average. Yep. Again, that's an answer to customers, which, yeah, kind of amazing. There's still a bunch of stuff that us Patreon members wrote in and asked for, and only one got put in. And that was the ability to scroll your mouse wheel to change frequency. That was one that got added. I'd like to think as a result of us writing in, I wrote in about the FTX-10 right after I got it, requesting that. And then I asked members of the Patreon team to write in about that. But I had others that would have made, for example, I had one request where we wouldn't have to press the band button. Just go up there and be able to go up there and right-click on the megahertz and have it pop up the band screen, and you just click it with a mouse. And then we don't have to mess with the band button because, on a FTX-10, it's kind of sandwiched in there between the outer dial and the function knob. Let's see. Another show, peak and just average in the settings. Yeah, like I said earlier, that doesn't really work. How Gold Pro I have to use 4 fingers. Oh, really? Okay. In Jordan, yeah, you're welcome there, Jordan. So do you have an SP30? I never even plugged it in. I love the internal speaker. Well, I do have an SP30 with the FTX-10, yeah, and I do like it. I modified mine. You must not have seen that video. I showed a video how I did a homebrew mod on it, and it definitely improved. Although DX Engineering has these FITS, PH, I forget now how it's spelled. The FITS kits that are cut, ready to go to upgrade. Isn't it funny? $170 for a speaker, and they don't have any baffling in them. And, well, now the scoop is they don't make much profit on the radios, so accessories are where they make their profit. And, they probably make those speakers for $20 or $30, sell them for $170 so they can make some profit. But it's easy. It's a nice little project. Hey, we can't build our radios anymore. We could, but we can't compete with what the manufacturers put out. So we build antennas and we modify stuff. So it's okay. Just put some baffling in there, and it's in the number 30 somewhere. I've got the video where I showed how I baffled my SP30. I've also done it to the speaker for the TS890S Kenwood here. I put some baffles in that speaker. That's a video that's going to be coming in the future. Let's see. Still have the 2-tap band. Okay, so you must have an earlier version of FTDX10 that you did not update. And yeah, hey Doug, good to see you in here. I got to work. Doug's a fellow soda operator, and I've gotten to chase him before. He's a really good supporter. He's a long hauler, guys. He's one of the reasons you get to still see videos. Let's see. Lost my place. Oh, there we go. Press band, then tap the on-screen. Yeah, I mean, you can do that. That was another way. Yaesu actually tells you to change. You tap band, and then you tap the same band again on the pop-up. I find it easier to just tap band, function, band, function, band, function if I'm using a 710. With my DX10, I'm still able to just double-tap the band button. Let's see. Sorry if this point was come up earlier. I stopped by the Yaesu booth at Hamvention intending to get one. While there, it turns out the Optima can't be remote. I wrote all about that on the Patreon report that I put out for the Patreon team. No, there is no separation kit. And it's kind of complicated because this is not just a control head. It's a radio. That part you see on the front there, that's a 6 to 10 watt radio. So it has some B and C connectors on the back. One for the VHF, UHF side, one for HF. And so you got those that you'd have to deal with in a separation kit, plus you've got external speaker, you've got the antenna tuner jack, which, by the way, the one on the control head is the typical 8-pin tune-lin jack, just like you have on an FT891, for example. And then you say, what did I forget? Oh, and power. So, you got 5 connections that you'd have to wrangle there to do a separation kit. So I think Yaesu just decided, hey, it's just a base station or a portable. But I mentioned to my Patreon team, like my son, he does 3D modeling. It might be possible to maybe 3D model a cradle, line it with foam, drop that radio in, tilt it enough so the weight of it is pulling it toward the, cradle, and figure out a way to mount that in your car. But yeah, no separation kit. Let's see. Yeah, that was a deal killer. Yeah, my brother too. My brother's got an 857D in his truck. He has no room for a radio complete. So he's got the 857D under the seat and a remote head, and it works out great for him. And he was hoping this would be the replacement, but no. Let's see. Sometimes Yaesu disappoints. I mean, let's be honest. They put out great radios, and it's unbelievable how low their prices are. Don't tell them I said so. But, I mean, compared to the competitors and what you get for the money, quite frankly, I don't know how they do it. But because, I mean, I remember, I've been buying radios since the 70s. Yeah, I'm old. And so I remember I've still got my first 2 radios. And they were well over $1,000 and didn't do near as much as these do. And one of them was the first one was bought in 1991. Second one was bought in 99. And they don't do near what the new radios are capable of performance-wise. And yet, like the second one, I've got about little over $1,500 invested in it. So Yaesu has continued to put out really good radios and not gone up a lot on the price. Let's see. Back to where I was. Any views on the weight without the amp? Oh yeah, without the amp, it's light. If you look at the specs for the FTX-1F, you can get the exact weight, but it's probably 1.5 pounds, maybe 2. But I carried around an FT891 in a backpack for soda all the way to Mountain Goat and a half. And that's 5 pounds of radio plus a couple of pounds of battery. But this would be heavier than that, yes. Let's see. Or OK VHF, UHF. Yeah, I mean, I've actually made some contacts on the UHF, VHF side. It's really cool. And like I said, while I was on the air a while ago, I was monitoring my favorite repeater, which is actually 40 miles north of me. But it's such a long-range repeater. There's a pair of them. There's a VHF and a UHF. And when we're up there in the mountains doing SOTA, those are our go-to repeaters if we get in any trouble. Trying to decide if I want to sell my 991A to get the Optima. That's a tough call. I would say if you're into the color screens and you like that type of scope, there's an argument there. Definitely a magnificent receiver. I expect it to rate pretty high on Sherwood's list, perhaps even in the top 10 for HF. And of course, the 991A doesn't make it that high. The 991A, though, has got a really good digital noise reduction system, and the DSP in general. It's got the same DSP as the FTX-101 and the FTX-10 and the 891. Same Texas Instruments chip. The programming is more updated in the 101 and the DX10. They can't go backwards, and it doesn't appear that they can go backwards and do the same algorithms in the 891 and 991. And according to what I saw in the schematics, I believe it's because if you look in the schematic, you got 8 megabits, not bytes, 8 megabits of RAM available for the DSP in the 891 and 991A, and in the 101 and the DX10, you've got 64 megabits. So my gut tells me that they probably just they don't have enough processing power to run the algorithms that you have in the DX10 and the 101. But, still, it's a good DNR. It really is. You guys who've been following me for a while, with the 891 and the 991A or 991, just forget algorithms 1 through 8 for the DNR. Just forget them. They don't exist. Always go to 9. It'll clear that underwater sound up. And again, use the attenuation and IPO, knock down the noise as much as you can in the front end. Let's see. You made your own remote cable. I only need 3 of those. Huh. Okay. Let's see. How long did you make the cable? Somebody asking. Let's see. Did you test for 40-meter transmit cutout issues some have reported? No, but I did that on the air a while ago. Was all on 40 meters, and I haven't had any issues with it. And let's see. Andy in the UK. So good night. Yeah, I understand, Andy. Yeah, it's late for you. Okay, I think I went through the entire list. Did I miss anybody? If I did, punch something into the chat right quick. Otherwise, I guess we'll wrap this up. Appreciate you guys joining, and appreciate the ones who were able to get on the air with me. It was a lot of fun. And you hear the guy gave me a 5.9 plus 20 with 100 watts. Now, band conditions, y'all. I mean, I'll leave you with this. I've mentioned this in some videos. Sometimes you get in there and you're trying to break a DX pile up, and you're running, 1,000 watts, whatever, and you don't get through. And then some guy gets through, and they go back to him, and he says he's running a G5 RV and 100 watts. Probably the People's Radio, a 7300. And, so you go, oh man, how can he do that with 100 watts and a G5 RV? And I'm sitting here with a well, not me, but let's say you're the guy that's got the Yagi 100 feet in the air, things like that. A lot of times it's band conditions and timing. I mean, when the band's going south and you're hearing the DX station, maybe S5, S7, guarantee you there's people that are hearing him 20 over, and he's going to hear them before he will you. So, you don't win them all. You don't. I think we got a couple here. Yeah, thank you. Matthew, yeah, you're quite welcome. James, yes, you're quite welcome. Hey, Jerry, good that you could jump in there. Sorry. I think this will be available to watch the whole thing after YouTube does its thing and processes it. Did the preamp work on VHF? No, the SDX, I'm sure that's what you're referring to. No, I didn't see it work on VHF, which is weird. It on the FTM 500 that I have in my truck, which of course doesn't have HF, it does work on VHF. But now let me just be real with you. I don't use it. I don't want to drag in more noise even on VHF or UHF, and especially on HF. I knock noise down. I don't want to add. The preamp's just going to drag in more noise. Even the amp 1 and amp 2, they drag in too much noise. I generally run IPO. I'll even run IPO on 10 meters. Thank you, Jerry. I'll even run IPO on 10 meters. And Jerry, by the way, for you guys, he is one of the long hauler Patreon team members that has made all these hundreds of videos possible. if somebody's strong on 10 meters, I'll run IPO. So if you're new to this, IPO in Yaesu speak it means no preamp, but more than that. But like, let's say on Kenwood, ICOM, you've got preamp, no preamp, preamp 1, preamp 2. Yaesu has IPO, amp 1, amp 2. So here's what's different. Intercept point optimization, which is what that stands for. And the intercept point's right there in the front end of your receiver. Basically, it's where it intercepts the signal coming in off the antenna. And the optimization verbiage there, what Yaesu is doing is, rather than taking just the straight signal into the first IF, in the case of the FTX-10, for example, or the 101, now not so with the 710, it's slightly handled slightly different, but similar, but it's a pure SDR. But let's just go back to a 10 or a 101. You've got an actual super heterodyne front end with a 9 megahertz IF. You're going through a roofing filter, and don't get worried about what I'm about to tell you. But there's always a little bit of what we call insertion loss when you go through a filter, okay? I don't care, because I've got attenuators anyway for a reason, you know. But before I'll use an attenuator ever, I will not turn on an attenuator until I've first gone to IPO, because I don't want to amplify noise. So what Yaesu has done is the amplification in the IPO, yeah, there's a little bit of amplification there. Not enough to degrade the signal to noise ratio, but to help overcome the insertion loss through that roofing filter. So that's why it's called optimizing. It's not just no preamp. It's a really cool idea. Now, the FTX 5000 MP, you guys who own a 5000, you've got IPO 1 and 2. IPO 2 is literally no amplification. So you accept whatever insertion loss you're going to have through that first IF filter. And that's fine, again, because why am I doing that? To avoid even having to use an attenuator. So I don't mind that insertion loss. It's a gift to me. It's usually about 6 dB plus or minus. So it's about like kicking in your first attenuation on a DX10, for example. And so I embrace that insertion loss. So I do often, especially on 80 meters or 160, I will use IPO2 on a 5000. And I'll use IPO1 all the way up to, well, even maybe 10 meters if I'm talking to somebody who's super strong. And let's see, Kilo Foxtrot Josh, one of my first HF contacts, recommended you to help get my audio set on my 710. Followed you ever since. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Those audio settings are intended to be a one size fits most, but you still may tweak it a little bit for your own voice, but it should get you really, really close. I'll tell people, if you got a deep voice, then you may not want to boost the low end as much. If you've got a higher pitched voice, then maybe let the low end run up a little bit. So you can tailor it slightly according to your voice. But yeah, those parameters should give you a one size fits most. Now, one thing that you'll hear people criticize about those settings is I generally run a 2.4 to 2.6 kilohertz bandwidth. You hear all these guys out there going 4K, 4K, 4K. Well, they want to sound like a broadcaster. I don't want to offend anybody, but if that's what you want to do, the radio stations are hiring, I'm sure. But I kind of hold to our old 3 kilohertz bandwidth principle. And again, I'm within that because I'm generally going to run, I run 2.6K with my Heil mics, and I run 2.4K with a Yaesu mic. And then, of course, you got the settings, the parameters that I show you in those menu optimizations guides to take it a step further. But those settings are a good all-around setting for whether you want to bust a pile up or do a rag chew. That's basically what it's all about. And so they're good communications audio settings. I'm not trying to make you sound like an FM broadcast. Okay, anything else? Anybody else want to post something in the chat before we go? Cute rig though, huh? By the way, you see looking at it right now, you see the VFO knob? I got to tell you, people always ask, how's it feel? That VFO knob actually feels quite good. It's small too. It doesn't stick out far because it's a portable rig, but it feels good. The ergonomics of it, all of it feels good. So if you're worried about that, I don't think you will be unhappy. And by the way, you notice the white light around the knob. That's coming from the FT710. And let me show you something. Oh, it's not white. It just looks white to you guys. It's blue right now. Okay, because I'm in VFO mode. Now it's pure white. That means I'm in memory mode. Let me show you something. I'm turning the VFO knob. So I've already programmed a bunch of memories in there, and in memory mode, you just cycle through. But let's say you go to 7268 and you go, oh, I'm hearing somebody 2 kilohertz away or so. I want to listen in on their QSO. I want to tune away from that. The button to the right of the memory button, these are buttons on the top. Tap it. That light just turned blue. I'm now in memory tune. All right. So then when I'm done, I just tap the second button in from the right, puts me right back in memory select. Rotate the VFO. Oops, messed up the camera. Rotate the VFO knob, and I'm back in memory. And what's this? I'll keep going. There's 10. I've already put in the 10-meter repeaters. Haven't put in 6 yet. And here now we're getting into the 2 meters. There's a 440. There's my friend Pete's VHF machine. The next one's his 440 machine. My 2 favorite repeaters. So I like memory mode, and then so you can put in a bunch of favorites. What's this? See, I've got 14074 in there. So I want to go work FT8. Remember, guys, I've got a simplified method of doing FT8. That's over there on Patreon. There's a video about it. And part of that is I'll go ahead and program FT8 frequencies into memory. Or you can put them as one of the band stack registers. There's 30 meters. And there's FT8 for 40 meters. So I've got those programmed in there as well. And so anyway, now if you're using the clarifier, it looks orange on the screen, but that just turned red. That's just letting you know, hey, by the way, your clarifier's on. It's kind of a neat thing they did with the FT710. I guess they were thinking, what are we going to do with that space since we didn't put an outer dial on that one like we did on the 101 and the DX10. So that was a pretty good use of that space. There we go. Which puts me back on that thing of I wish that back button had been something that we could user define. Bottom line, yay or nay? Oh, I mean, I like the radio, and I fully expect that Yaesu will put out a firmware update to take care of the quirky things. I can't wait to take it out on a soda outing. And in fact, I'm looking over there now, and the battery's finally charged. It took about 9 hours. I charged it with that USB-C. Again, you have to use what's called a power delivery block. Not just a normal USB wall wart. It needs 45 watts, and I've got one over there that can produce 100. So it's finally charged. That battery's ready to go portable. VFO knob could use some adjustments, but still right on for everyday use. Yeah, Ghost Man, I don't know. It feels good to me. But I mean, and I got to tell you, the VFO knob on the FTDX 5000 MP is still my favorite of all. That thing just, so the inertia of it, it's great. So I'm kind of hard on radios when it comes to VFO knobs. Like I felt like the ICOM 7300 knob felt sort of plasticky. It just felt, I mean, they're plastic, all of them, but it felt plastic, This one rolls pretty well. Have I done any FT8 on it yet? No, I have not. I might, but I'll probably not do that when I'm portable. I don't do FT8 from a mountain when I'm out doing soda. But, since it's got a fan on the back of the amplifier, I'd be willing to do that. But again, remember, do not run more than 50 watts on FT8. I know it's not officially written anywhere in any Yaesu literature, and people get mad at me. Don't get mad at the messenger. You send them back with failed finals from running 100 watts FT8. Over on Patreon, I wrote an article about it a few months ago. I would encourage you guys who are Patreon members to read that article. They used UHF transistors for the finals in the FTDX10 and the FT710. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's not. But those finals are rated for 25 watts key down. Now, why would the radio be rated for 100 watt sideband? Because sidebands, and I wrote this all in the article in a lot more detail, but I give you a quick little tidbit. Sideband's only about a 30% duty cycle, and they expect you to unkey and let the radio rest a little bit. So that's why you can take a 25 watt transistor and get 100 watts out of it on sideband. So the reasoning is, why could you get away with 50 watts on FT8? Because, see, a lot of people go, well, FT8's upper sideband, then why can't I do 100? Yeah, it's the duty cycle. Those 8 tones, or 4 in the case of FT4, they are, they're hard on the transmitter because they're not like your voice where you have gaps, right? And so they're hitting that transmitter hard. So Yaesu's compromise is this. It's 15 seconds on in the case of FT8, 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off. So it's going to get that breather. So they compromise and say, okay, well, then you can run half power. So, with an FTDX 101 MP, for example, I would maybe consider 100 watts would be okay. Now, that radio has different finals in it, and, it can definitely handle 100 watts FT8, or should be able to. But this radio, if you're doing it portable, you got to have the fan attached to it if you want to run FT8. That's one of the reasons they sell the optional fan for it. The 100-watt amplifier has a fan on the back. I would still caution you not to go above 50 watts on FT8. And look, it's a weak signal mode anyway. You shouldn't need a lot of power. Let's see. Hi, everyone. I'll be on a summit tomorrow and Tuesday. Chase me if you can. Okay, Left Coast Ham Radio is going to be out there on a summit. Cool. I may try to jump in there if I can. Right now, guys, my wife just had surgery. She's had a lot of health problems over the last few years. And so I'm bouncing back and forth between that, making a living, and trying to keep this going. And then... Oh, okay. Ghostman. Yeah, you're asking for his call sign. Yeah, he can. We have apps for SOTA where you can put somebody's call sign in and it'll alert you when they put out their spot. Okay, well, I think that's good. We've been on here an hour and 22 minutes. This will be a long video for YouTube to process, but I enjoyed it. Thank you guys for jumping in, and thank you especially, guys, these long hauler Patreon team members make it all happen. There's no way. I could make a whole lot of money if I was willing to align with a manufacturer and get little points here off telling you what to buy. I'm not going to do that. Some of y'all know that, I tell people stay away from that Yaesu M1 microphone, that $670 microphone. I've had 2 Patreon members bought one anyway because they thought it looked cool. Okay, I'll grant you that. But when I was helping them set their audio up, we turned off the internal EQs that are in that mic. There's 2 of them. Didn't need them. We went to one of the mic elements and then used the settings that I use in my menu optimizations guides. Mic sounded like $1 million and looks cool. But think about how many antennas you could buy for the price of a $670 microphone. So, no, I'm going to be real with you. That's the way I do it. And these long haulers from the Patreon team make that possible. And again, before I go, I got a shout out to Andrew, N4HNH, for making this video possible and all the other content that I'm going to be putting out about the FTX-1. All right. Well, hey, y'all, let me say 73. Again, thanks for watching videos on my channel. Appreciate your support. While I got you guys here, let me mention something to you that a lot of people don't realize. If you start a video and stop it, I get penalized. If you start one, let it play through. Even if you're going to walk away, let it play through. YouTube's algorithm will penalize video if somebody starts it and doesn't watch it all the way through. And please do the likes. I know you hear people on YouTube say that all the time. We get penalized when we don't get that stuff. So it makes them not promote our channel. And you guys, I'm a niche channel. I've been doing this since 2019, more officially 2020, and I still don't even have but 17,000 and something subscribers because I'm not out there promoting stuff. But please do like the videos and watch them to the end. That would be much appreciated. All right, 73 to you guys. This is N4HNH, and I'm going to end the stream. Take care. Hope I